gonna do American energy now, right? Anything's possible. America, fuck yeah. All right. Wanted to start off that way. So, hi, my name is Ashley Vinson. I am the Chief Marketing Officer of a lovely company here in Amsterdam called myTomorrows. Where are my employees? Oh, woo, there we go. All right, now you'll get a raise. First of all, I want to say thank you so much to OnBrand for bringing me back. I don't know if any of you were here last year, but yes, you may recall that I was famous for my amazing dancing, and it looked a little bit like Elaine. And since that wonderful time, I was working for Twitter last year, and here's a picture of me at work. And I've spent a career actually pitching ideas to clients, trying to win a work. So even when I was at Twitter, my whole job was to sell creative concepts so they would want to use Twitter. And I've worked at BBDO, I've worked at DDB, I've worked at Tribal here in Amsterdam, of course. And now, for the first time in my career, I'm actually on the client side. Oh, God, and you feel it, and it's awesome. It's awesome to get the position of a CMO, and this is kind of how I feel about being a CMO. You got your dancing. That was the whitest dancing ever. But at the same time, you're a CMO, and it also stands for Chief Mistake Organizer. And so you look, the pressure is on us. For those of us in marketing that are on client side, there's huge pressure. And if you look at just what's happening with the tenure of CMOs, it's gone down just already 2 months from 2015 to 2016 because so many companies are looking to marketing to solve their problems. And if you aren't solving their problems, then you're out of there. And so there's all this pressure for you as the marketer. How do I do this? How do I drive sales? How do I make my company successful? And then on the flip side, of course, are the agencies. My God, as someone who comes from the agencies, there's so much pressure, not only on just costs, but trying to get the relationship, trying to win work, trying to keep the clients. And if you think about it, what is our greatest fear? What is it? And this year, I think it was no one wanted to be the one who had approved or came up with the idea for the damn Pepsi ad. So the pressure is on all of us to perform, and that was really the inspiration for the speech, was how do we keep the good ideas from going bad? Or the original working title, how to totally not screw the brand and lose our jobs. So when we're talking about keeping ideas good, there's really 3 areas that I would focus on, which is being good, keeping it real, and of course, staying focused. So talking about being good, the first thing to understand, and this is very interesting as someone who's worked on both sides, is that knowing that both the client and the agency are responsible for the work. There isn't one person that takes all responsibility. It's a collaborative effort. And part of that is starting with a good brief. Now, I could certainly show you a good brief, but you know what? It's a lot more fun to show a bad brief. And this is one that was actually done, a friend told me about, and it was a British client that briefed their agency on coming up with a campaign for Christmas. Okay, great. So if we looked at the brief, the client, phone store, awesome, great. Their objectives, drive sales at Christmas. Okay, pretty big, but all right. Their target, all people who buy gifts at Christmas. Okay. And then the key message was, our phone store is the place to buy all your Christmas gifts. The unique selling point, they wanted to emphasize that we have Christmas gifts for everyone. So, and to even make this brief better, they defined success as everyone in the United Kingdom buys all our Christmas gifts at our store. For those that you may have missed this, they wanted to get everyone in the United Kingdom that buys Christmas gifts to buy all of their gifts from the phone store. Now, hearing about this brief, I figured they left out a few things. They also forgot to ask for the ability to fly, maybe win the lottery while we're at it, and of course, transform water into wine. Now, what's scary right now is there's people sitting in this audience going, you know what? And they're talking like a Californian. You know what? That wasn't such a bad brief. I mean, why aren't we reaching for the stars? Why don't we push our agency? Let's see what they can come up with. And the reality is that to reach for the stars means reaching for success. And that means, first of all, knowing your own brand and its limits. You're a phone store. You can only do so much. You can only add so much value. So asking to be the go-to place for all of things isn't a realistic delivery for your brand. And the next thing is being precise in your brief. So many of us get these targets. Target all customers that buy Christmas gifts. Target them all. And for most of us, very few brands have the budget or the ability to actually do that type of thing. So doing this type of target doesn't even make sense. It's not being precise. And last of all, ask for realistic outcomes. Expecting that the only way the agency is going to succeed, the only way this campaign succeeds is when you can say everyone bought your gifts from your store for Christmas isn't realistic. And a lot of times we put this in because we think, oh, we're gonna push them. But that isn't actually helping you, and it's setting them up for failure. So be realistic about your outcomes. Now, building on this, it's important that you're collaborative and honest. And as Trump has illustrated time and time again, it's important to tell the truth. And with this UK phone store, one of the greatest things about this story was that the account person from the agency told the client that they were cray-cray, that this wasn't going to happen, that the outcomes, the targets, none of that worked. And that was the best answer that client could have ever gotten. That was about being honest and collaborative. They did not want to see the client fail, and they wanted to be more realistic. So, and for me, I had this same experience with talking to a client in an honest way with my first Dutch client. Here's a picture of him. Handsome gentleman. And he had asked us to brief, come up with all these ideas, and what he wanted. He said, I wanted printed out in a big glossy book on nice paper. I want it bound so I can have this book of your concepts. Great. So we made this book. We spent weeks and weeks designing all these different ideas based on his brief, knowing he was going to look at this book and focus on our ideas. So when I rocked up to the client here in Amsterdam, we brought the book, we gave it to him, and we started presenting ideas. And he picked up the book, he looked at it, he turned the page, and he said, I don't like that one. He proceeded to flip the pages at a rate about 5 seconds per page, telling it, oh, that's good. Oh, that could work. I don't know if I like that one. And I had to stop him. And I had to say, your role isn't to play the critic, whether or not you like it or you think it's cool. That wasn't your role. And we have spent a lot of time on this. And I said to him, let's go back through this deck. Let's spend the time that we need to collaborate and actually come out with better outcomes, because that is our job. Our job, yes, the client needs to be honest. Yes, he can say, I hate it, I think it's stupid. But let's talk about why. Let's collaborate to get the work to a better place, and that's important. The other thing is awards. Oh my God, awards. So many times we've gotten briefs, I want a Cannes Award winning campaign. Yes, I'm sure you do. And we covet this. We think, oh, this is going to be it. This is the key to our happiness, is this. And of course, I mean, who doesn't like award shows, right? Because there's this. But we're setting ourselves up for a vicious cycle. And when you think about it, as someone at the agencies, right, the brands are hiring us because some of the agencies, they've won awards. Oh, they must be good, they've won awards. And then the agencies are pushing to win awards to get the brands. Oh, we gotta win awards because we're gonna then get business. But then, awards don't necessarily equal sales. And the next thing you know, the brands are firing the agencies for not increasing sales. And so it starts again and again and again. And really what it means is that when we're focusing on awards, we're not really thinking about how we're going to communicate to the consumer. Why awards are awesome, and if that's the side effect of doing really good work, that's great. But if that's ever the focus, then you're going to lose out. Because while all of us would love to be on the cover of Advertising Age, we don't want to be on the cover of Advertising Age for this. So being good is about having a good brief to start with, about being honest and collaborating, and don't chase awards. So the next thing is talking about how do we keep it real? How do we keep it real? And that starts with not believing the hype. And as a former ad agency person myself, I know all about the hype. I know about the big presentations. I know how important it is. And I know how easy it is to fall in love with the pitch. We love the pitch. It's about the show. And I was looking at a lot of different pitch decks, and I came across this really amazing one. And I thought it was a good example of how we actually can pitch. And because in America, when we used to do these big pitches for clients, we always did it with British people because they're fancy and they make everything seem smarter. I'm going to horrify now the British audience members and do a British accent. So let's do this. Our vision. We have a unique goal in inspiration, the exploration of the uncharted inspired by and referencing the 5 elements of the earth. Ooh. The actual experience exceeds all expectations. This is something that's hard to put into words, that we did in this slide. Now, and then last of all, this event will ignite that type of energy, that type of power in our guests. And we have a strategy as well. Our 360 methodology allows us to capture brand revenue in a unique manner. First, starting by understanding the brand goals, ideating, conceptualizing, and then executing. Oh. And you're sitting there as the client, you're like, oh my God, yes, I'm in. Oh, it's so amazing. Big words, pretty people, love it. And you may recall the Fire Festival, some of you. It was an amazing festival that they were setting up to have on a private island in the Bahamas with musicians, social media influencers, even a mobile app, and of course, hot models. If you recall, this was actually what happened. One of my favorite quotes that they put out on the event, the day after where the shit hit the fan was, "Yesterday was a very challenging day for us and our guests, but we would like to fully explain what happened." And of course, these disasters happened before, and this one was an extra big disaster. But I think a lot of us get a bit intimidated sometimes by the agency because the agency is always way cooler than us. I mean, they're coming in like with cool hair and beards and ironic t-shirts, and you're like, my God, they must know better than I do. And the truth is, though, just because they're so cool and their t-shirts are so witty doesn't necessarily mean that what's coming out of them is a good idea. And I found this online, and I laughed because this is how it was when we would work on a pitch. You'd get briefed, you'd fuck around for a very long time doing research on YouTube, and very quickly you'd start to panic, and then you'd finish the work drinking heavily, crying, doing drugs just to get to the deadline. And then you'd be there to present to the client. Now, that isn't to say that just because the deck was finished in a hurry and they were maybe drunk and high, doesn't mean it wasn't a good idea. But to somehow think that there's all this thoughtfulness and that there's this huge thought going into the pitch isn't necessarily true. We're trying to sell work. We're trying to get the work from you. And when you want to love a pitch, you want to love it for the right reason. So, of course, obviously, does the pitch align with your brief? Really, really basic question, but after you go through a big, amazing pitch, it's hard sometimes to see that focus. So going back to your brief, making sure it aligns. Of course, does the strategy make sense? I've seen so many pitches where the center of it is a mobile app, a branded mobile app. Well, who the hell's downloading a mobile branded app? If that's the strategy, then maybe we need to look closer. Is this going to work? And then, of course, is it trend dependent? Is there a lot of mention of the Snapchats and the Instagrams? Are we trying to be on trend so much that we forget about the core idea? And of course, is it doable? Can this be achieved in the time and budget? And that's always an important thing to do, because at the creative agency, of course, we're always going to require that the beautiful advertisement is shot in Hawaii during the winter. So knowing that this is doable is an important thing. And last of all, the audience. Will the audience actually like what you're presenting? And when I worked at the agency on a beer brand back in Chicago, the target audience was pretty much interested in two things: looking at sports online and pornography. And so every time the team would come up with a new digital concept, I would say to them, like, that's really great, but do you think that your target audience would want to spend 30 seconds with this and tear themselves away from a sports site or some pornography? And of course, you do need to take a break from those things sometimes, but was the idea good enough to do that? And that was always the question. And if it wasn't better than sports and porn, I said, go back to the drawing board. So, keeping it real, don't fall in love with the pitch. Look for the substance over style. And of course, think about, can it be done? And last of all, does the idea bring value to my audience? And the filter is always, is it helpful? Is it relevant? Is it useful? Or is it really highly entertaining? How can I bring value? And the last thing is about staying focused. And of course, you could look at Pepsi and you're like, Kendall Jenner was giving a cop a Pepsi can. I mean, right there, we knew it was fucked. And one of my favorite clips from this ad should have been assigned to whoever was approving this. Maybe they shouldn't approve. And here it is. You better know who we are. We are the lions. We are the chosen. We're gonna shine. Jesus Christ, what was that? Oh, there's my wig. Oh, my transformation moment. I just realized Pepsi can make it happen. Now, of course, what happened? Someone had to see that cheesy-ass scene and be like, Kendall really just whipped off her wig and wiped off her lipstick to reveal another color underneath? Yes, she did. And the truth is, nobody spoke up. They had gotten so far down the line that even this insanity here where they said live bolder, oh look, we have a white guy with a guitar, oh look, black hip hop artist, let's put the darker guy in the back, oh, token Muslim, oh, then an Asian, he's of course with a cello. You would think that maybe someone said, do you think we're being a bit cliche? Do you think maybe this isn't working? No, because everyone got on the bad idea train. And the truth is, though, Pepsi is not unique. This is not unique just to Pepsi screwing up. And I had the most fun time looking through bad advertisements, and I could only pick a few. This is one of my favorites. Ford wanted to show just how much stuff you can hold in the trunk. I like the tagline, leave your worries behind. Well, there's a former Prime Minister, Berlusconi, with some lovely women that he had gagged and put into the back of his trunk. Wow, you really can hold a lot. 3 whole women. And then, of course, there's this one. Totally looks like it came out of a female creative team, doesn't it? And then, of course, my all-time favorite. I think it's always a strong move for a brand to align itself with incest. There's definitely a target audience out there. Well done, Jack Daniels. Living up the redneck dream. And this actually happened to me when I was at the agency. So when I worked in Chicago, I worked at an agency that we did a ton of Super Bowl ads. So big deal. A lot of us working on huge ads, huge money, huge media spend. And so they wanted me to work on this, and actually they were bringing in me for the digital component. And so they had all the ads made, and they wanted me to work on it. So I said, well, let's look at the brief first. What was the original brief for this? And they said, well, basically we want to create consumer awareness about the brand product because it's able to actually give the actual price of a car. And in America, you're able to negotiate with the price. So by knowing the actual price of the car, you can negotiate with the car dealer, which gives you confidence. So our product gives you confidence. All right, great. This product will help you negotiate. It will give you confidence. So our answer to that was kind of clever. We're going to create a series of ads comparing how easy it is to use our service to get confidence, to be able to negotiate with a car dealer versus using, I don't know, other less desirable methods. And so it was a series of ads where they showed all these things happening on. They would try to negotiate, they would try to leverage in one way. And one ad had come out on top. This was the one they wanted to run. So they showed it to me, and I'll show you kind of the storyboard ad, and it was actually made. So it started off with this man, he's shopping at a car dealer, right? He's shopping, and he starts negotiating, but unfortunately, he doesn't get the price he wants from the car dealer. And so what he does is he calls a friend for some confidence and for some help negotiating. Fortunately, this friend was nearby, already kitted up as a full sniper on a roof near the dealership. And so that friend put some pressure on the salesperson in the form of a laser red sniper mark. And then, of course, the ad wraps up, instead of maybe threatening murder, you could get confidence from using our product. Or as the tagline is, confidence comes standard. So this was an actual ad. So after recovering from the shock, I don't know if you know about America, we have a small gun problem. I had to bring something up, and it was weird because this ad's already made. The Super Bowl is coming. And I said, can I first talk about how did we get here? How did we get from confidence comes standard to murdering the car dealer? And so I looked at it and I said, okay, confidence, all right, you want to get confidence, so as is equals getting what you want. Okay, great, that's great. Okay, the brand, all right, we give confidence because confidence helps you get what you want. And to get what you want, you use threats of violence. Again, American. And the threats of violence, of course, you can use a gun. What's better than a gun to threaten violence? And use a gun, get confidence. And this had been kind of the logic that had been distorted and now was contained in this ad. We are about to go live to millions and millions of people on the Super Bowl. And when you looked at it, it was really a recipe for bad decisions. When I asked around, everyone was in agreement. Yeah, we think this is funny. Murder's funny. And when I said, but you said there was research about this, said, oh yeah, no, the research is really super positive. This is the one that came out on top. And of course, the game was soon. We had to get an ad out there. We couldn't not run an ad. The media was bought. So there was all these things that were coming in that makes it difficult to speak up. And of course, speaking up is awkward. Telling the truth to power is always not the most fun thing, and especially when you're that far down the line in production. And so what I did is I asked questions. I said, is everyone really in agreement? Do we really think this is a bad idea or a good idea? And there was a few people that started saying, well, yeah, maybe having a sniper threaten to shoot a car dealer isn't the best. And the next thing, when the research, I said, well, who was the research? Who did we talk to? Well, we went out to this mall in the middle of Ohio on a Wednesday afternoon. They're all unemployed and have some anger issues. And they think guns are awesome. And I'm like, I'm sure. So we had a small audience that we tested this on, and the gun lovers loved it. Great. And then, of course, the big game was soon. Is this really our only option? Is this ad the only thing we had left? And of course not. We had made already 4 other ads. So this reality that we're all in agreement and that the research was solid and that we had to go with this wasn't true. And by speaking up, you can start asking the questions and look for alternatives before you head down that road and make a huge mistake. And so when we talk about keeping it real, again, it's about speaking up and being brave. So no matter where you are in the process, even if that thing is supposed to launch tomorrow, if you see it, you need to say something. And of course, you want to describe the idea back to yourself. Do the idea math. Does it all add up and make sense? And then, of course, tie the concept back to the brand proposition. Do they align? Is what the brand offering align with what the idea is illustrating, and do they want to be associated with that? So keeping ideas good. It's about making that leap. And we talked about today about being good. We talked about keeping it real. And we talked about staying focused. And the thing is, when you think about advertising, advertising is really an act of faith. It's us saying, this is what we think is the right thing to do, because there is no amount of research, there is no amount of great ideas, of affirmation that's going to let us know that we're doing the right thing. And one of my favorite quotes, it's been attributed to many, many different people, this was the earliest attribution I could find, is that half the money I spend on advertising is wasted. The trouble is I don't know which half. And if you think today, even in the digital era, the numbers, and as someone who worked at Twitter and I looked at the numbers all the time, we don't know how much of that is real. We don't know the true brand effect. We're getting studies back from Nielsen who we actually paid to tell us how well we're doing. So in reality, a lot of the information which tell us that we're rocking it and our advertising is working isn't necessarily true. And the truth is that there's no 100% method. There is nothing that is going to prove to you that this is going to work. And that means we need to understand that, yes, our job is really hard. Our job is very difficult to do. And that means that we have to have the brains to ask the right questions. Is this the right idea? Is this on brief? Am I making the right choice? And then, but part of that also is that even if you answer all those questions, you have to have the guts to take the risks. That's part of the job of marketing. And last of all, of course, you have to have the strength to handle the consequences. Not every concept is going to work out. Not every plan you have is going to be perfect. But if you really want to move the brand forward and you want to do good work, you have to make those risks. And I want to end on one of my favorite quotes from one of the founders of DDB, Bill Bernbach. He says something I really, really believe in, and it's something that no matter when we do all the right things, no matter how much we plan, we need to understand this when doing our marketing. Is that I warn you against believing that advertising is a science. Thank you very much.